Thank you, Rav. ברשות רבנים, תלמידי חכמים. I must put this on. תלמידות חכמות גם. Esteemed guests. This? Yeah, like that? Cool. So, from... done. You know, it's not easy leaving home. It's the first time since the beginning of the war that I left to come to the United States. And it's actually crazy when I think about it. I was packing, and my son, my youngest, he's just 9, Yoni, he's in first grade, and he said that he saw me like kneeling over my bag, stuffing things in. I just came straight from the army base, and I was packing up, and while I was crouched down, I felt these hands come around my neck. He gave me a big cuddle, and he said, "Abba, please don't go." And it's actually crazy coming to the United States without my guns. That he was scared about. But when I told him that, Abba has to go to the army for 2 months and I'm not going to see you, that he said, "Okay, but just make sure you call me." And that was going to Gaza. Obviously, didn't explain to him that I was going to Gaza. But it's not easy being a soldier. But it's not easy leaving my family. If I got some time off, I'd love to spend with them. And to be honest, when I was driving to the airport after getting that cuddle, I thought, what am I doing? If I have some time off, let me be with my family. I must be honest that when I arrived here, I felt I was among family. And it's been incredible. It's been incredible, the welcome, the love, the talking until, I think we went until 3 o'clock in the morning last night. It's been incredible. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for including me in this conference and allowing me. Phil? Yeah. Thank you for including me in this conference. It's for me so beautiful to fly across the ocean. You know, when I turn on the television, I told you, CNN, BBC, there's newspapers. There's so much anti-Israel, anti-sentiments, soldiers, and the negativity. And coming here and feeling that, you know, I have family, that we are so unconditionally supported. I think that's really beautiful. So thank you for having me. It's been incredible. I'm going to open up for some questions. And if there's something that you'd like to know, personal life, Bezrat Hashem, or if it's something connected to the military, Israel, I must just give a notice that I'm terrible. I absolutely hate politics. I stay away from it. I stay clear. I get a breakdown just before the elections from my brother-in-law. He's Israeli. He tells me what party is this, what party does this, who's running for what, and then I make an informed, educated decision of who I'm voting for. But I stay as far away as politics. So if you do want some insightful ideas about the politics in Israel, I'm sorry, I'm not there. Yes.
Is there anything that you see, and if so, what, a way through this other than Mashiach coming? Because from this end of it, most of us, this is an impossible situation. It's appeared that way for many years. And I don't mean just Gaza, but we could start with that.
Right. Everyone heard the question? No. Sorry? No problem. So the question was, is the only answer, the only solution, Mashiach, right? Bottom line, it seems very complicated, complex a situation in Israel, and let's specifically focus on Gaza. So a great question. Being an observant Jew, I think I want to keep a balance, right? As the Rambam says in Shmone Prakim, Shvil HaZahav, the middle path. I'd like a balance between hishtadlus and bitachon, right? So it's 50-50. And from our perspective, Israel is doing their absolute ultimate, their 50% of hishtadlus. The rest is Mashiach or HaKadosh Baruch Hu, making sure that we're successful. just for you to understand the complexities of what we're talking about. As I was speaking to people last night, just to understand, Gaza was a tremendous honor to serve for Brigadier General. I was on his protective detail going into Gaza. When he went in, and we learned this from David HaMelech. David HaMelech, the king, right, didn't sit in his palace and bark orders, send it down the chain. David HaMelech was the first one into battle. He said, Kadima Acharai, Litzayr. He said, come behind me, we're going forward, we are charging. And that's what they do in the Israeli army. We learn from David HaMelech, the Brigadier General, who I happen to be on his protective detail, was actually a Frum Jew. He is a Frum Jew. He's no longer a Brigadier General. He got promoted to be a general during the war, an incredible human being. But when he went in, we had to clear he wanted to show his soldiers and to see the effect that he had on soldiers. Coming into war zone, being in Gaza, where there's bullets flying, it's just the most, it's a war, and this high-ranking officer going there, I'm sorry, I can't talk about that, but going in and being able to, see his soldiers and give them a hug. And he wasn't this very aloof Brigadier General. He was really, he's down to earth, and he looked the soldiers in the eyes, gave them a cuddle and said, you know what, you're doing a great job. And it wasn't only that, tactically it was very important. He had boots on the ground. He wasn't just in the command center analyzing and running the war from there. So it was an honor being on his protective detail, to see the effect it had on morale, to see the effect that it had on making informed strategic decisions, which was very important. So it was absolutely incredible. We had an opportunity when the commanders that were under him wanted to give him a tour of some of the interesting things that they had found in Gaza. So a huge, massive cache, an underground hall with ballistic missiles. From the floor, it was a massive hall, all the way to the ceiling was just piled up with missiles. And you look at these missiles, and I walked in with Dado, and what happened was we saw every single one of those missiles was supposed to be aimed at a Jewish town, a Jewish kindergarten, a hospital. And it was just horrific to see our enemy is so close, and the tremendous infrastructure. We actually found a tunnel. The Brigadier General called in the engineering corps, and the engineering corps have these massive drills. They pull it behind on like a trailer, and it's this massive drill that's I would say about 50 feet up in this, and they drill down. And he wanted them, they found where they thought would be the center of the tunnel, and they drilled into the top, and he wanted to make it wide enough so that they could put explosives inside and just blow up this tunnel. Obviously we did as much as searching inside the tunnels to make sure there weren't any chambers where there could be hostages, and after doing that search, they called in the engineering brigade, and they came, they started drilling, but the guy pushed too hard, and it went straight through the ceiling of the tunnel, straight through the floor of the bottom of the tunnel, and continued going. And he pulled the drill out, and we looked down, and it was actually crazy. Below the first level of tunnels, by mistake, we actually found that there was a second layer underneath, a whole tunnel system. To understand what we had been doing Hamas had been doing for many, many years, we're talking about since 2014 at least, right? That we know about. But spending in tremendous billions of dollars and putting all that foreign aid that they got and building a terrorist infrastructure. And that terrorist infrastructure was being built under our noses. We didn't want to believe, no matter, there's very controversial what we did know, what we didn't know. Everyone's got their own theories, and, Bibi knew about it. Let's leave all of that aside. I'm not into those conspiracy theories. But I'll tell you this, is that I've got a very interesting friend, Rabbi Ari Abramovitz, and he said to me, the worst thing that ever happened to the Jewish people was the Iron Dome. I said, Ari, you crazy. Everyone know what the Iron Dome is? Iron Dome is an Israeli invention which is just phenomenal. that we have satellites up in space that at the moment, the split second, a rocket takes off anywhere on the borders of Israel, not just Gaza, we're talking about Lebanon, Yemen, anywhere. The moment that rocket takes off, there's a satellite that calculates the trajectory of that rocket. So it takes 2 points, and then it plots where it's going to hit. And based on that trajectory, it sends up Patriot missiles. These are missiles that intercept and blow up the missile in the air. 98% of missiles that are shot at Israel are intercepted in the air. Absolutely incredible. The 2% that it misses, thank God their missiles aren't so technological advanced. Their 2% that actually don't get hit by this Iron Dome fall into dead space, which is great. No one gets hurt. So I said, Ari, how could you say such a crazy, sorry? I don't know. I understand it's a 2% error, but that's my understanding. Again, this is not my field of expertise. But I'll tell you like this: is that I said, Ari, how could you say such a horrible statement? Imagine those 98% of rockets that weren't shot in the air. If you imagine them landing on kindergartens, on hospitals, the devastation. He said, Steve, chas v'chalila, you're right. But if it happened once, what we would have done, we would have responded and not waited for on October 7th. You see what the Iron Dome in his mind, and this is I think very insightful, it lulled us into a false sense of security, thinking, you know what? Exactly, right, 100%. And he said, we're going to trust in the Iron Dome, we're going to trust in technology. Yes, we've got, Kfar Aza, I've got friends in Nativ HaAsara. This is, you should know, it's not even, it's on the border. We're talking about 50 feet away from the Gazan house is a Jewish town. And these are our enemies, sworn to our destruction with ballistic missiles. And we say, you know what, let's carry on life as normal. And I think that was the complexity of the situation that we're dealing with. A tremendous terrorist infrastructure that we allowed to develop unhindered, and they continue to make that. So that's something that it's absolutely very complex. So I do need a lot of Kosh Baruch Hu help. We do. The whole of Am Yisrael does.
You're working on a laser. You want to say that you have to trust that Kosh Baruch Hu do nothing?
No, status.
You have to use status. Okay. Status means to work on Iron Dome or laser or whatever you can. You can't just say, lift your hands up and say, Kosh Baruch Hu, I'm sitting back. I'm saying you
Can we let him talk?
I agree 100%. We have to be active. As I said, it's 50-50, a balance between putting in the ishtadlus. But and I think what's most important about being proactive is not allowing an enemy to exist. And something that this is, if I may venture into a little bit of politics, something that I'm very excited about with President Donald Trump. His idea of the solution being a complete obliteration of Hamas and not allowing any of their infrastructure, but any of them to be active anywhere around Israel. And that's something that I wish that I could say from the Israeli side of politics was as clear. But I think what I'm finding in Israel is people are getting sick of war. No one expected us to go on 500 plus days. And people just want a quick solution. So that's where we are. Yeah. Yes? Sorry?
How expensive is it?
Wow, I haven't got a clue. I'm sorry. That's not my... I could just tell you that we are struggling financially, the Israeli army. It's the biggest budget in Israel. And since the beginning of the war, I've fundraised to put bulletproof vests on my soldiers. I was a commander of the Gush Etzion area, just south of Yerushalayim, and I was horrified. They called up thousands of reservist soldiers, and we went into the storerooms. These were vests that were 50 years old. They stunk of like mold. They didn't even have a place. It was like the old vests, bulletproof vests. We actually call it in Hebrew, it's called an ephod, where they put the ephod, here you go, they put it over, and it just had pouches of where you could put magazines, water bottles. They didn't have a pouch that would allow for bulletproofing. So what we had is soldiers standing the front line of defense. There are 24 Jewish towns where I was, 120,000 Yidden. The biggest was Beitar, 70,000 Jews. And across from Beitar, well, actually, 360 degrees, Wadi Fuchin, you've got Nachalin, Husan. These are all Arab cities, right, surrounding them. Husan is 150 feet from the entrance of Beitar. Now, we saw scenes coming into Gaza. What were those scenes? An RPG on the front gate. So yeah, we have 4 soldiers, 5 soldiers, but no bulletproof vests, and they're standing 200 feet away from Husan. How are they going to stop an attack? And once you're through the gate, you've got a city that is filled, very packed, jam-packed. In fact, it's the biggest city in terms of population in the Gush Etzion. It's not the biggest in terms of landmass. So it's very concentrated, like Efrat. If you heard of Efrat, Efrat is much bigger, but it hasn't even hit city status in terms of its amount of population. So it's a very concentrated, very small. So it's a huge problem. And to know that there can be, so as I was saying, that this was something very important for us. And why I brought it up, your question about the missiles, is I understood that the majority of the budget that was going into that, the FIDF, the Friends of the IDF who fundraise, the budget from taxes, the military budget in Israel, I understood that the huge amount, and I can't give percentages, went to the Air Force. And I can tell you for sure it didn't come to infantry, it didn't come to foot soldiers. I'm also in absolutely no position to say if they made the right call or not the right call, but as a commander, I could not put a soldier on guard duty without the right protection and the right equipment and the right gear. So I've been fundraising from the beginning of the war by remote control. While I'm, on patrols, on shifts, that's how we've been doing it. So unfortunately, there is a huge issue when it comes to equipment and where they're placing that focus of the budget. It was something I was also very happy to hear about from President Donald Trump, saying being supportive of helping us with equipment, which is, I think, so needed. I haven't seen the result yet. We hope, hopefully, when I get back to Israel tomorrow, we'll start seeing a change in what's happening with equipment.
Is there an address we can send donations to?
Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Tell us.
Yeah, I've got, it's an organization actually that we created, a very special Yid, a special Jew in Brooklyn, New York. He started an organization called Our Brother's Keeper, HaShomer Achi. It's very beautiful in, I'm sure you know the Tanakh, where it is, Chumash. But HaShomer Achi isn't a question, it's an exclamation, right? It's not, am I my brother's keeper? Shomer Achi. And it's a really beautiful organization. So I can, whoever wants, I can for sure give details. No problem. Thank you.
You can't just tell us the website?
There's no website. It's, yeah, so I can give you my own personal number. But yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Can you just tell us now the number?
Yeah, do you want to write it down? No problem.
Yeah.
I'll give you my American number. And thank you. I really appreciate that. Just wait 1 second. You're ready for the number? Yes? No.
Take it if anybody else needs it.
No problem. 917 426 1719. Thank you. 917
Give it out after.
426 1719. Thanks. Yes.
How does the IDF protect itself now during a period of ceasefire that this is not being rebuilt? Right now in Gaza, there's no action, but how do you know that they're not rebuilding?
They are. They are rebuilding.
So how are we preparing for that?
We also rebuilding. I mean, we're planning, we're training, we're using this time not to get some rest, right? Not my unit, but I'm just part of a brand new counterterrorism unit. We became active a week ago, and they rushed us through to become active because of Ramadan. So Ramadan, which is supposed to be a beautiful month in the Islamic religion. It's actually good. There's a lot of similarities between Judaism and in Islam. It's their Elul, you know, the whole idea of Elul, about introspection, about, you know, leading up to the Amim Noraim, taking on extra khumras, you know, it's really to become a, you know, cheshbon nefesh, and that's something that they're supposed to be doing through fasting, right? And unfortunately, the terrorists misuse it. They fast during the day and sleep, and they're wide awake after they eat at night and got energy again to keep us very busy. So that started a few days ago, Ramadan, and that's something we have to be. So you know, you hear a lot about the combat that's happening in Gaza, or the lack of combat now with the ceasefire. You hear about Lebanon. You don't hear about, unfortunately, the enemy that's within, right? We're talking about Israeli Arabs and also Palestinian Arabs. I told you 120,000 Jews. There's over 300,000 Arabs where I live, between Yerushalayim and Hebron. So that area, there's Molotov cocktails, gasoline bombs. They've actually started something which, this was in the beginning of the war, being very creative and innovative when it comes to terrorist attacks. They take a huge, massive tire for a truck or a tractor, and what they do with this is they put it as close as they could to a Jewish town. They fill the inside. It's just the tube. It's without the tube. It's just the outer shell of the tire, the rubber, and they put inside gasoline, and then they fill up it with nuts, bolts, any kind of sharp metal objects, and then they place, you know, for a barbecue, those gas balloons, yes, gas canisters, cylinders. They take the cylinder and they put it in the middle, right, full, and then they light the diesel inside the tire. It gets so hot that the noise is tremendous, an explosion, and this is a massive hand grenade. So that's the way grenades work. It's not actually the explosion of the grenade that is most deadly. It's the shrapnel, the pieces of metal that fly all over. So they are being very innovative, and they are always regrouping and trying, and that's why there's a lot of people, some of even the parents of people, of hostages, parents of hostages are saying, I understand they're hostage, but it's the wrong thing to do a ceasefire. And there's not a lot, obviously. Parents want to do absolutely anything to get their children back home, their family members, but there is, if you take logically what being at war means, we are letting the enemy regroup, right? Yes?
As an American, it's very easy to, you know, to have, you know, like my opinion on the war, and, you know, to sit back and be able to say things, but, you know, and I know that the world hates Israel no matter what. So the question is there, like, you know, we want to just say here, like, just carpet bomb Gaza, just, you know, like, make them into a parking lot. Now, I know the hostages are there, and obviously that's, you know, priority, but putting that aside for a minute, is Israel trying to pacify the world who already hates us anyway? Like, why are we not going in, I mean, we are, but in a more aggressive stance?
Right.
To, like I said, you know, America had no problem bombing Hiroshima, Nagasaki, World War II, right?
Right.
Killing civilians, children, you know.
Look, it's a great question. I'll tell you from my perspective, again, I'm not in the politics, I'm not in the high-ranking officers. I had the tremendous opportunity to listen to what they're saying. So I'm sitting, the chief of staff, the Ramat Kal, is talking to the brigadier general, and there's the head of the central command, and like I'm just like a fly on the wall. And it was incredible to hear the discussions that they had. But the discussions was, you know, that no one really has a solution, which is crazy. We're talking about the highest, and but what I can tell you is that it was I did feel there was an issue. when there was a democratic government here in the United States. Let me just say, I don't think Israel cares. Bibi's a great statesman, but I don't think he cares what the rest of the world thinks, but he does care what the United States thinks and supports. So he definitely cares about that. All of Israel does. And we definitely want the support of the United States. So when the Biden administration was in, he was doing, cartwheels and backflips to try and appease and keep the support of the United States. But since Trump came in, I feel that that's what his main concern. As long as we've got American support, obviously we're trying. Israel's trying as much as possible. The new chief of staff just fired our the head of the IDF PR, Hagari. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, good move, bad move. Again, I'm not there to judge my commanders, but he made that decision. I think they want to put a focus on getting the PR out there and make it a strong message of who Israel is. I spoke a little bit about that on Shabbat, and hopefully that message will be taken, you being shlichim, and continuing that message. Yeah, can we do one more question and then I'd like to end off? Yeah.
So I think, and I'll just speak for myself, there are many of us that have Haredi family in Israel.
Right.
And if you mention Israeli army, it's like not in this house. No. I'm sure it stems from what they did after World War II, where they really tried to get people to be more Zionistic and away from Kite. Are you doing anything in terms, like, it's so heartwarming to hear you speak and to see you're from Yid and all. Are you doing anything to, like, make them understand, like, hey, this is not right after World War II. Like, there are from people here. We're not taking you away from Yiddishkeit. Like, if I go back and I explain this to my relatives, it'll be, Ma, please. Like, now you know it's my children.
So I'll give you two answers. The first answer is they already are serving in the Israeli army and they're learning Torah, right? And instead of them standing at a guard post outside Beitar with a M16, their weapon is the Gemara. And what they're doing is my son was actually 2 years in yeshiva when the war broke out. In the middle of, he called me up and he said, Abba, is it right that I'm 19 and that I'm sitting learning and not fighting the war? I said, Gabi, you're at your guard post, sit down and steig. That's how that's your contribution to keeping. So from our perspective, I think this is the issue. It's called the Haredi draft, right? Giyus of Haredim, to enlist them into the army. I'm very much anti that draft law, very, very against it. It's not everyone in my community. In fact, I could talk personally. My wife and I have very, very intense discussions about it. I can tell you for a few reasons. Number one, I don't want to make anyone be a soldier who doesn't want to be a soldier. I'm not talking about a soldier sitting in a base midrash. I'm talking about a soldier going in. The army isn't a great place. We know that, right? From the sugya of Eshes Yefator, we know the army brings out the worst, right? Of a human being. As I said, I've got my 4 boys and my Talia, my little girl. I would hate her. I'd absolutely hate her to go to the Israeli army. That would be horrific for me, right? The way guys speak, the way they act, and it's not that she has to go there. There are other avenues to help out in our communities. The modern Orthodox is something called Sherut Le'umi, national service. She can help out in hospitals. I dated a girl, I went on a shidduch, it was crazy. She set me up, it was an ambush. She said, I work in a kindergarten. I thought, that's so cool. She said, please come meet my children. It was a blind kindergarten, blind. The kids couldn't see. Yeah. I was like, she put this little kid like on a swing and she pulled the swing back. He couldn't see the ground. and like was tiny, and he had this big smile. He was having the best time. There's like an 18, 19-year-old young lady, and her job is they found her a place to work in a special kindergarten. So they do incredible work. So that's where I would encourage my daughter to go. Obviously, it's her choice. If she said no, this is where I want to, and that's my point really. I don't want to force a soldier. I don't want to force anybody to do. I'm not only talking about Haredim. There are left-wing, very fanatical left-wing in Israel that are left-wing now means anti-religious. We could talk about the homosexual community in Tel Aviv, those areas that are pacifists. So we say, we won't pick up a gun, right? If I'm going to force Haredim, I'm also going to have to force them, right? I'm not forcing them to become soldiers. I don't want them, right? I think, as I said before, everyone's got their job to do. So I am against that, but I do believe that if someone isn't sitting in yeshiva and pulling their weight, I think we could take Musar, right? And it's not for me to give Musar to the Haredi community, but I've got a good friend, and I could say it in his name. His sister lives in Telstone, and he's also modern Orthodox, but his sister is Haredi, and he said, like, he's so frustrated. He said, like, his sister said, Baruch Hashem, the Rebbe in their community, he said that they can stop saying they had to do an extra, it was crazy, an extra 20 prakim, Tehillim chapters, right, of Tehillim. And she said it was intense. And after a year of the war, the Rebbe said, you can stop, right? So, my wife went crazy when she heard this. What are you talking about? I'd love you to stop also. Come out of Gaza. I'd love you to stop patrolling. I'd love you to, So, like, why do you stop? Because, like, no, you're busy with the kids and, having guests and Shabbos and chinuch and like, you're doing a lot of stuff. I get it. But, it seems, so there's criticism. There's no question. If you're really at your emda, that you're at your guard post, you're learning in yeshiva. So how many, was there Bein Hazmanim? I'm talking about at Mir and those yeshivas. Was there Bein Hazmanim? I don't get Bein Hazmanim, right? I get a day off, but should they? So they did. They took one day off their 3-week Bein Hazmanim to learn an extra because of the war. So, which was incredible, right? But could it be more? So I think everyone can look at themselves. My Rebbe taught me a very important thing. When you point at other people and say, you should go in the army, you should do this, you should do this, you're actually pointing 3 fingers back at yourself. So take a lot of Musar. The Gaon says this as well. When you find something that really bothers you inside someone else, look at yourself first. And if I can, and just a story, I was with this brigadier general up in Lebanon. We actually did a tour in Lebanon. We came down, and we're in Tveria, and he said, Steve, you got the night off. It was 12 o'clock at night, so I just wanted a shawarma. So I went to the shawarma place, and I walk inside, and as I walk inside, there's this massive guy in the corner, right? So he's sitting in the corner behind his, on his like table, non-religious, right? Massive guy, and he is screaming at the poor guy on the other side of the counter who was serving the shawarma. And this guy, the guy serving, had a little black kippah on, and he was sleeves rolled up working, and this guy was screaming at him, saying, the Haredim have to go to the army, it's not fair. The craziest argument is that, there's in the modern Orthodox world, the secular world, so many children are dying. Their children should also die. Like, what? So he's screaming at the back.
Who's going to serve him shawarma if he goes to the army?
Sorry?
Who's going to serve him shawarma?
Yeah, there you go. So he's screaming, and this poor guy is just yes and yes and yes. Next thing, a Haredi guy walks in. I thought, Baruch Hashem, this guy's going to shut up, like proper Haredi. He's got his payers going down. And he walks in with his kids, right? This happens in Israel, 12 o'clock at night. He walks in, his kids are there, and the guy just gets louder, right? Haredim have to go to the army. It's going nuts. And I said, please, you have to stop this. This is ridiculous. So I said, number one, you can see he's got children, right? You're talking, you're angry. This is not appropriate. That's number one. Number two, What you're doing now is exactly what our enemies want to happen. They want us to have division among Israel. Do you know what's so upsetting to me is that just before the war, the whole country was divided, not between should we give away land for peace. It was divided between religious and non-religious. And the religious won, right? Aguda, Shas, Likud, Bibi, all came together. Ben Gvir from our parties all came together, and the religious was the religious parties won. And when that happened, there was tremendous division. If leading up, Simchas Torah, a few days before was Yom Kippur, Chabad did an incredible thing. They went into the center of Tel Aviv. They said, whoever wants to daven, we're going to make a minyan. Anyone. You don't have to come. It's no coercion. But they put a mechitza, right? To have two sides, men and women. The Tel Aviv crowd heard about this. They went nuts. It was rioting, right? Protests. How can you force us to sit separately? So you don't want to come, don't come. No, we want to come. But we're not going to sit separate. Like how are you forcing it? It was, and then the war hit. And it was so beautiful. When you look at the war, and as I think the Gemara does this often, it tries to figure out, Gilui Arayot, why did it happen? Was it Sinat Chinam? So you saw that was the precursor going into October 7th. And the day after the war, these signs came out all over Israel. B'yachad nenatzeach. Together we're going to win. It's achdut. There wasn't the divisions. There was a unity government. The left wing, the right wing. No, everyone together. And that lasted a few months. Yeah. And now you drive around and it's Ata Rosh, Ata Hashem. Pointing fingers, right? Charedi Gius. This is not okay. And it's very sad. It's very sad. And that's what I said to this guy. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is what the enemy wants. And if we have to learn anything from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's sending us a message. When we don't stand together, we don't have achdut. So that's when the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Shekhinah, is not shoreh benehem, right? The Shekhinah leaves us, Chalila, right? But that's what happens. And when the Shekhinah leaves us, Shekhinah is way, 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 way more important than Iron Dome, right? We're unprotected. And I think that's something that, he went crazy. So it was so mad. In the middle of this whole me talking, this Haredi turns to this secular Jew and he says to me, I actually served in an elite unit in the Israeli army. And it was dead silence. And you could see like he was thinking. And he said, you're not Haredi. He had to figure out a way, right? Because it can't be. So his definition now. So we're trying to find ways of how we should hate another human being, another Jew, and that's painful. So that was just an experience that I had. If I may end off, I had an experience when I was in Bnei Akiva camp. There's a youth movement in South Africa, and I was sitting in camp, and on a Motzei Shabbos, all the counselors got us all. There was 300 kids. And all the Chanichim were sitting in a hall. They turned off the lights and they got us singing Achenu Kol Beit Yisrael. And we're singing the song. I don't have a clue what the words meant, right? But all singing. Thank God, one of the counselors, he turns on the lights. He said, anyone know what the song means? Dead silence. He said, okay, I'm going to explain to you. He says, Achenu, our brothers. Kol Beit Yisrael, the entire house of Israel. Hanetunim betzara u'v'shivya, that if they are in pain, they're in captivity. Hamakom yerachem alehem, Hashem, have mercy, cuddle them, take them out of the darkness. Wow. He turned off the light. I understand the words. It's a beautiful tune. And I start singing again. But this time, I understand the words. I close my eyes. And I start feeling tears are rolling down my cheeks. And I'm davening. I said, Achenu, our brothers, I know there's a soldier standing on the border of Israel. Right? And Hamakom yerachem alehem. Please, if he's in trouble, if he's in distress, please have mercy on me. It's crazy. That was when I was a 16-year-old kid in Bnei Akiva camp. I found myself a couple of years later standing on the border of Israel and Lebanon. I was on guard duty. I served in those days in the Golani unit. It was freezing cold. we were on foot patrol on the border between Lebanon and Israel, and we were walking up and down. It was midnight, the like graveyard shift, and we are freezing. So the only way we can really keep the warm and pass the time, we start singing every song. It was me and another soldier, Shlomo Goros. We're both part of Hesder, which is a religious unit. So we're singing, we go through all the Yaakov Shweki and a little bit of, we go through all of the songs. All of a sudden, he starts singing Achenu. Now it's crazy, this maybe is 10 years later. And all of a sudden, like I hear the song and like I get transported. I'm a little kid sitting in B'nai Akiva camp in South Africa. And I remember the tears. And I remember thinking about a soldier standing on the border of Israel. Now, I am that soldier. I'm the soldier standing on the border, and it was just the most craziest thought. And I said, Shlomo, wow. I said, stop singing for a second. I said, you obviously understand the words, Israeli. When you sing Achenu, what do you think about? He said, Steve, it's obvious. He says, I think of all those Jews living outside of Israel. You know where there's assimilation, hitbolelut? There's more Jews that have died in assimilation than in the Holocaust. A spiritual death. He says when there's anti-Semitism, guys are scared, they can't walk around with a kippah. He says that's crazy. They in distress. They in tzara u'v'shivya. Hamakom yirachem alehem. Hashem, have mercy on them. Must be incredible being the Ribono Shel Olam. He looks down and he sees the soldiers, right, that are up on the border of Israel. They're soldiers that are in Gaza. And they are davening for you. They're davening for Jews all over the world, because I daven also. I daven 3 times a day, even though I've been in combat. But what's so incredible, the Ribono Shel Olam sees you. Jews in South Africa, sees Jews in New York, Canada, Toronto, wherever you, and they're davening for the soldiers that are in Eretz Yisrael. And they're praying for the hostages that are in captivity. And I think that's how we're going to win. And I think we got it right the day after the war. The Yachad Nenatzeach, that's how it's going to happen. It's only through us coming together. It's only through us caring for each other, looking out for each other, everyone pulling their weight. That's how we're going to win. One of the last things, and I'm going to end off with this, Aisha Torah, a good friend of mine, Rav Tzvi Sittner, from the village shul in Toronto, he called me up. He said, Steve, I got a great idea. He says, you don't keep Shabbos. I said, what? He says, you drive around. I said, Rav Tzvi, I keep Shabbos, right? I mean, we're not going into Shabbos Hutra, Dechuya, but I keep Shabbos, right? I just, it's Pikuach Nefesh, right? So, yes, I've got a special watch that doesn't have sensors on. It's my Shabbos watch. I have a special pen, right? Every time I've got a pen, you have to have a pen on you. Soldiers, you know exactly where your pen is. You have to write important information. So this is my tactical pen, but I've got a special Shabbos pen. It's made by Tzomet, right? And when you write with your Shabbos pen, it erases after 25 hours. So I just got to remember to take a picture of whatever if it's important information. So it's a maximum in Isser, D'Rabbanan, right? It's an Isser D'Rabbanan. So I said, I keep Shabbos. He said, okay, Steve, but you know what I'm talking about. You're not at home with your family. You're not, with your children. You're out in Gaza. He said, let's do a program. Keep Shabbos for a soldier. I said, Rav Tzvi, that's unbelievable. Let's do that. And it's one of the only websites that doesn't have a little place where you can make a donation, which I think is so beautiful. But there's a donation, and it's the greatest donation is that a Jew, and this is hit mainly in the non-Frum communities. I don't even know if anyone here has heard about it, but there are non-Jews. They actually they upload videos saying how it was to keep their first Shabbos ever in their life, and they did that for a soldier. And we changed the nusach. It's not for a soldier who can't keep it like he wants to. It was a bit too wordy, but we kept everything together. But bottom line is, it's very, very special what Am Yisrael is doing, and Aisha Torah especially. So thank you for having me. Thank you for listening. Everyone stay safe.